I am excited to be talking with Becca Florence today. She is the founder of CHP Caliber, based out of New York City. She's got a great story. We are kindred spirits. We love watches. We're going to talk all that kind of fun stuff today. Becca, welcome to the Rise Up podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Justin. I really appreciate it. Yeah, watches are fun, right?
They are. They are. I kind of geek out on those things.
Okay.
Tell me about your journey into CHP Caliber. I know you do some consulting. You kind of do a
Yeah.
couple different things here, but tell me about what you do, how you do it, where it all began, and what do you stand for today?
What great questions. Well, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was a theater nerd, musical theater geek, did all of that. Went to school for acting, actually. And as soon as I turned 18, I moved to New York City. And I needed a job. I needed money because New York is really expensive. And I walked in to Diesel in Union Square for a part-time sales associate job. And then I worked in the luxury goods and retail sector for a very long time. I worked at Diesel for 3 years, moved to Mulberry, which is a much more heritage brand than to Stella McCartney. And then I wanted to do something different, but I didn't want to work in retail anymore. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but like I wanted to just see what more was out there. And so on LinkedIn, this opportunity for Shinola came up as a wholesale like brand coordinator. No
Nice.
idea what that meant, but I was like, cool. I like watches. And, I actually worked for them for 5 years. So I started out as a brand coordinator. I would go into, Neiman's, Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, Saks, train their employees, do merchandising. Then I was promoted to their Northeast account executive. And so I managed over 90 plus independent jewelry and watch retailers all
Wow.
along the East Coast. Yeah. So I'm working with not only buyers, owners, things like that, but I'm working with the sales teams. And I think why I really connected with them is I had worked in retail before. I wasn't some account executive sitting in a golden tower. Like I was on my hands and knees in stock rooms trying to find product, like talking to the associates, really valuing who they were. And that kind of brings me at who I am and what I'm about today. So, I left Shinola on very, very good terms. They were great to me. But one thing I'm really passionate about is people. And how
Mm.
do we treat our people better? And this will tie into CHP Caliber. But, I had worked in retail environments where corporate people would come in and treat the retail workers like shit, just to be honest with you.
Mm.
And I think there is a disconnect sometimes between corporate environment and then the people who are literally making money for the company.
Mm.
So I started my own consulting business, which is called CHP Consulting, which stands for creativity plus humanity equals profitability. Because it's a really simple concept, but being good to people actually increases revenue, right? And so that
Isn't that weird
isn't
how that
that
happens?
weird that if you treat people
If you're
well,
nice,
they'll
yeah.
make more money for your company?
Huh.
Kind of funny. It's kind of strange. And then, I'll skip over some stuff just for the sake of time, but I missed working in watches, dude. I love watches. And if you're a watch guy, which you're a watch guy, once you're addicted, you're addicted. So like I missed that world. So I was doing,
Mm.
consulting projects here and there, keeping myself abreast and afloat. And I went to, and I'll shout out this watch fair because they're innovative and I love them, is Wind Up Watch Fair, which what they do is they bring together all of these independent, either micro brands or even just smaller watch brands. And I walked in and there were literally, dozens, if not like at least 100 independent watch brands that were there that I had never heard of. And they were great quality, great prices. And where I came from with Shinola was, we were carried amongst Tag, Tissot, Rolex,
Yeah.
Hublot, some of these. And I'm like, how the hell do we get some of these indies into these independent retailers? And no one has been trying, like individually as companies, they try to do it. But, we'll talk a little bit more and I'll explain the concept. But that's where CHP Caliber came to be, is I want to be the conduit of
Mm.
bringing in this new and fresh up and coming talent placing them in really good independent jewelry and watch retailers and seeing them thrive and become the next Tissot or Tag. But right now, there's not an avenue for them to do that, really, for several
Yeah.
reasons. So it's
Yeah.
a big ambition, but that was a very, very long answer to one question. But that's
So,
start to
but do you
finish.
think, I mean, we can maybe dive a bit deeper into this, but just kind of answer this question for me right now,
Mhm.
or if you could, sound demanding right now. No, but could you please answer a question for me? Why is that? Why is the smaller independent, like, why is it, can you put your finger on it? Like, what's
Yeah.
the what's that challenge? How come they can't do that?
Because they can't get the appointment because so there's threefold. There's like, what's the resistance from the brand, and then like what's the resistance from the retailer, right? So from each perspective, they both have challenges. It's not that retailers don't want them. That's not the case. Watches are doing extremely well right now. I mean, yes, it's Rolex, but watches as an industry, it's funny how during the pandemic and things in the luxury market, actually, I gotta say, Shinola killed it during the pandemic. We opened so many doors during that. So it's like, it's a good business, right? But let's say what the retailers, why they wouldn't take on new brands. They don't know these people. They don't have the time to entertain these people. They don't know if their operations are up to snuff for them, because when you're dealing with another or another brand, it's also operationally, how are they? How do they handle repairs? How do they handle RTVs, which is like a return to vendor? So it's not that they don't want to feature these people, but they have no way of vetting them other than a conversation. And unfortunately, these guys are running their businesses and don't have the bandwidth. It's not
Yeah.
about not having the want. They don't have the bandwidth because they're either like Reeds, which is amazing, and have like tons of stores, but then that's also that buyer managing like 20 or 30 locations and just managing the stock that they have, or it's a mom and pop store that's still a really high quality store, and they don't have enough open to buy to try new brands even though they're financially doing really well. So it's like, that's the retailer problem. The brand issue is that they may have the most amazing products, they may have the best price points, but again, they're emailing an inbox where someone's seeing it and they could be interested, but they don't know who they are. Like, you know what I mean? It's really about the relationships, right? And it's also about marketability. So, one thing at previous companies I've worked for, and that strategy for a lot, not just Shinola, but like a lot of retailers, is if you're a new and up and coming brand and you're the only watch that's being carried in that store, you probably won't sell that well because unless you're Rolex, people don't know you. So you
Mhm.
actually need other watch brands and you want to be sitting with them, right? So it's like,
So it's like by proxy.
yeah, by proxy,
Yeah.
and actually competition, and this is where the CHP Caliber concept comes into play. Competition is a good thing. It helps sell each other ultimately. So this is what CHP Caliber is doing differently, right? It's a very, very simple, it's a very simple concept, but you'll see why it's so effective. So, in small jewelry stores, let's say if I'm talking to some of your audience members that have no idea the kind of stores, think Jared's, right? Jared's isn't really who I worked with, but like a Jared's has multiple brands, multiple whatever. They carry multiple watches. Think of a Jared's, right? So, there's tagged, so blah, 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 like all those brands. So, what I'm proposing is a foot to a foot and a half of case space with a placard inside of it that says the future of independent watchmaking, featuring 4 to 5 brands at 5 watches each. So most assortments have 25 to 30 watches. Like if you go in, Tag has like 30 watches. Rolex doesn't. Rolex barely has anything because they're all in the back and you can't get your hands on Rolexes to save your life right now. But with CHP Caliber, what it enables the retailers to do is to test new brands without buying a $40,000 assortment, without investing in one brand.
Massive chunk of product that they may or may not sell.
that they may or may not sell. Correct. And so with CHP Caliber, not only is there this great small businesses supporting small businesses element of it, it's the brand's getting exposure. Hopefully, the brand's selling through. And that's also a combo effort of the retailer and the brand. They both commit to marketing in this, in this
Mhm.
setup. But then it's also if they're turning that product really quickly, then the retailer is like, wow, awesome. We should take their full assortment on. Lo and behold, they could actually have like significant case space there eventually. I want to start with 20 to 25 doors in the Northeast. So doors may mean like one store, 5 doors. That's kind of what I mean by that,
Okay.
because we want to start small. We want to test this, make sure it works, work out the kinks, see what the benefits are, see what the takeaways are. But ultimately, this is about small businesses supporting small businesses. And it's something new and different that really no one has tried in this capacity. So that's what
That's very
CHP
cool.
Caliber wants to do. Yeah.
So, how would you, how like where are you at in the process of it right now? Are you still kind of in the beta phase? Are you still like you're having success kind of placing these brands in the stores?
So, someone who I've been quite in touch with is Shannon Washburn, who was the CEO of Shinola at one point, vetted the concept, loves it. Hank Siegel, who's the president of Hamilton Jewelers, they're a store we're talking to. They haven't committed to anything yet, but he gets it. He loves the concept. We're continuing conversations and also has given me full permission. I've asked these people just to make sure, you know what I mean, that everything's on the up and up. So Hank has been involved. Shannon has been involved. Some other stalwarts of the industry have vetted the concept, think it's really good. I've already reached out to some of my top retailers. Some of them have committed, some of them haven't committed, which makes sense because they want to see what brands I take on, right? So it's like they're like, we're great. We would love to see, but we're not going to say 100% if we don't know who you're carrying. So right now I'm in the talks with, I would say, between 5 and 10 brands. So it's still very preliminary. There are brands being talked to, proposals have been sent. I'm actually going to Chicago Wind Up Watch Fair and I'm going to finalize some other deals. I do anticipate by the end of July, early August, I will have all of my brands set. And I'm really confident with the ones I'm talking to right now. I feel really good about them. But yeah, it's really early because if there's anything I've learned, Justin, and this is advice Shannon quite literally gave me, she said, Becca, go as slow as you need to go because anything overnight is going to be fleeting, right? So I'm
Mhm.
really building this and making sure it's with the right partners, with the right brands, so everyone is happy and it's successful.
Right, right. Because like good things. I mean, when you're building a foundation of a house, I mean, you can't build it, you know, on sand. You have to build it on a firm foundation, which will support the business, which will build enough relationships where it's like a snowball effect in a way, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and
So
something too is that to speak to that a little bit is that like, it's easy to sell in products. Like it's easy to get people excited to sell in the idea or whatever, where really the rubber meets the road is sell through. And that's what I'm needing to make sure of. Like these brands aren't just going to be great. We're so excited to have them, that the brand and the retailer work together to both market it so it's successful. That's something that's really important too, is that this is a partnership for both of them. And there's mutual benefits for both parties for sure. But like, I want to make sure that everyone feels good about it. Everyone is crystal clear about what's happening. And that, again, that's why it's like creativity and humanity is profitability, knowing that there will be hiccups, there will be things that we're going to work out along the way, but them being confident that we'll do it together and no one is going to be left behind, like in this
yeah.
kind of concept. Yeah.
So I have a question for you then. So you have kind of two with CHP Caliber. You have kind of two clients in a way, right? You
Mhm,
have the retailers and then you have the actual makers themselves.
mhm.
So with the retailers, what kind of retailers are ones that most resonate with a scenario like this? Can you
I mean, definitely like Hamilton Jewelers would be fantastic. They're a stalwart in the industry. They have just for having a store in Princeton and Florida, their client base is wonderful. they also, I just love the way that they view their own business, because they are so about people and their community. And I, one of my first events working at Shinola, I was embossing leather straps at one of their watch events and just had the best time with them. And that team really cares about their clients. And so, they're two stores, but they're big. They're a big deal. London Jewelers is another one that are fantastic. At London Jewelers is such a great guy, and like knows watches in and out. People who have been in the industry for 10. I've mentioned all these people before, but also Reed's Jewelers. Reed's did really well with Shinola, and they're more so in the South, quite popular, but they have a great client base. They have a great website. It's really, not that I don't want to work with like little mom and pops. I think that there's a space for it, but not yet. Because in order for this to work, it needs to be like heavily marketed, and like there needs to be like these locations need to be watch locations, like people that love watches. And
Yeah.
not all mom and pop jewelry stores are like that. So it
Right.
needs to be like a destination for watch
Okay.
lovers, for sure.
Okay. And then from the maker side, I guess what you call it, like what would be an ideal fit for you on that? Like do you have criteria that you set for those kind of people?
Absolutely. Of course. So, I think that's a great question. Really, what I'm targeting currently is price point between $500 and $2,000, right? So there can be partnerships that are above that. Like I've even, spoken to a brand that sells six-figure watches. That to me would be like a special event with VIPs, maybe a capsule collection in one or two stores. That's what's kind of great about owning your own company. You can like try things and like see what's
Yeah.
happening. But in terms of the initial like broader scope, because those would be on something called consignment, which like stores wouldn't purchase those. It would be if they sold percentage, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah.
Okay.
So the way I want these stores to be supported is I do want the retailers to buy the product. Like they should buy what's going to be in the store. And then obviously our responsibility is to turn over sales so the stores continue to make money, but then also the brands are making a little money. But so that's one aspect, is the price point. The other is that, they are pretty operationally sound. I think that's very important. Like, what happens if there's a repair? What's their warranty? Like, and if, by the way, those brands don't have those things figured out and they want to partner with me, I'm a consultant. That's what we can get you
Mm.
ready for that launch. So, there's a few different ways that our partnership could work, but not only am I supporting my own business model, but say if there's a client or like a brand, especially that has one thing I like, but one that needs to be worked on, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That's a part of the us working together, is me helping you get to that point. Because what I can tell you is a huge pain point for these stores is late deliveries, things being delivered late, which happens, repair processes that are arduous and really difficult for the clients, and things like that, that if you're a brand, you haven't thought about unless you've been in wholesale. So part
Yeah.
of my job also is to use my experience and help them hopefully not make some of the mistakes that have been made. And not mistakes, any growing company is a growing company. Like, Shinola was wonderful, but they were a growing brand. It's like that was a train moving and the tracks are being built in front of it. And that's the appeal of that brand. They're really innovators in that
Yeah.
way.
So what kind of shifts are you seeing right now in the timepiece industry?
Well, the tariffs have been a thing for sure. Like as
Yeah.
soon as tariffs started,
Ugh.
there was a slowdown. And I know it's like it's such a pain in the ass, and it's in a lot of industries too, but people are scared. They thought some things have already been directly affected, some it's like everyone's holding their breath. But what I will say again, in terms of like the luxury industry as a whole, I mean, people who have money are still spending money. They just are. They are. So I'm not worried about it long term. I do worry about what the tariffs will do for production and for cost of production, especially for these smaller independent brands. It's affecting them the most, unfortunately. So that's the main shift I've seen in the industry, is people really concerned about that. But listen, man, there are people going to watch fairs left and right. People are still
Yeah.
killing it with their product. I'm a huge fan of Brew watches. They're doing a pop
Yeah.
up in New
Brew's
York.
amazing.
Ugh,
Yeah.
am I wearing mine? Yeah, I'm wearing mine. This is the first watch fair I went to. I found Brew and I saw this watch and I walked up to Jonathan. I was like, I want to buy this. He's like, it's sold out. And I bought it. I like set my alarm on my phone for October when the second
Yeah.
launch was. But people are like that and they're like that still. So, yes, it got me a little nervous of like, what am I going to do? But it's not as bad as I thought just yet. Watch, knock on wood. I mean, who knows what's going to happen,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's the main shift I've seen.
So what is getting the most of your attention in what you're doing these days? I mean, I know you dropped a little bit on the tariffs, but like, are you just entirely focused on getting relationships built at the moment, or are what things kind of internally are you struggling with?
So it's interesting. You want to know what's fascinating is, I've talked to a lot of brands that are really interested in what I'm doing. They're super, super interested in what I'm doing. It's money. Everyone is struggling right now. Like it doesn't matter how big or small you are. So, something that I'm really priding myself on is figuring out creative ways to work with people. Like obviously I need money and we all need money and everyone's got to get paid, but there are ways to do it that I think will make sense and are making sense for one brand that may be different for the other. And that's also what's really lovely about being a small startup is being able to pivot and see what the pain points are. Everyone wants to work commission only with me. And I'm like, well, that's not realistic in certain ways, and maybe some circumstances it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every brand is different, and I really believe in what I'm doing, and I know that it will make them money, and I know that they will sell. So it's also me putting my own ego and my own BS aside and saying what's realistic for me. What do I need in this time to get by in order to like make things happen. And that's also why I'm looking for funding, because what I want to do is going to cost money. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of traveling to accounts and training and helping set up. And yeah, technically there's a lot that can be done virtually, but I'm not that kind of person, Justin. I need to go in
Yeah.
person. I need to talk to people. I need to show them and I need them to feel the product. Like, so it's a lot of travel for me. It's going to be like visual displays, placards. Those things aren't crazy expensive. And I have people who I know who can give me good deals and know vendors. Like the head of product development at one point, Ray Wagle, is someone who I'm talking with as well for Shinola. I have a lot of really good Shinola people. There are really great people who work at Shinola. And like we're all very tight knit, like group of folks.
Aw.
So yeah, it's been great. It's
It's
been
good to
great to
hear.
have that support. Yeah. But, right now, it's the biggest challenge is working with these brands and financially agreeing to things that make sense at the beginning. And I'm willing to do stuff. I mean, maybe this is like something we'll cut out, which maybe I won't, maybe I will. But I'm willing to do stuff for so cheap right now because, again, it's really about getting it off the ground. It is. And once it's off the ground and there's some testing done and like it's a proven concept, prices change, things shift. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not charging the retailers a dime to participate in this because they're the ones buying the product, right? That's their participation. So it's not like I'm charging them, but who knows? In like 5 years, if it's like a hot commodity to be a CHP caliber door, maybe that's added on as like, great, you got to pay to play. But I wouldn't do that unless it made sense, unless it was for a reason, right? Which would go to like
Right.
marketing or something like that.
Right.
So that's also a piece of advice Shannon gave me. She's like, don't get caught up in, she's like, you need to get paid, obviously, but like, don't be afraid to do what you need to do to just get the damn deal signed because
Yeah.
it's gonna be okay. And I believe it. I fully believe it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there's that you're speaking to something here that, I've talked with a few other people that have kind of been in the same have dealt with it in the past. And it's like you gotta when you're doing a business like what you're trying to do and you're trying to get off the ground and you're trying to get things moving along, it's that grit and determination. You believe that's what you're doing is good. You're
Mm-hmm.
serving, you're creating a win-win scenario in your case, right? You're
Mhm.
bringing small makers into retail. You're giving retailers the opportunity to showcase at a small level. You're bridging, you're finding a gap there. But what I find is interesting is that, other people I've talked to have said something similar, is that you have to like, you can't come in at the very beginning, like at the top. Like,
No, you
like you
can't.
get, you gotta get in there and you gotta figure it out. Either if it's just like the first few that you do it for a really good discount, or if it's just, you grandfather so many people in for a period of time. There are different strategies that you can use that still can get you paid, but you're still providing the service and you're opening the doors that you need to open.
Totally, totally. And I
So
have like great mentors. Like I have great people I'm talking to about all of this, because I can't do it alone. Like that's another thing is like
yeah,
is knowing when to ask for help. And like I will never posture and like pretend like I'm doing something that I'm not. And it's like I am so confident. Like, dude, I know this is gonna work. It's gonna work. It's like, but how do those final like brands get brought across the finish line, which there's a few that are there, like that's we're there. So it's about finding just three more or like a few more, it doesn't need to be. I like the number five because it's an odd number, but it could be four doors. Hell, I could do this with three or four brands. I could do this with three brands. I think five would look better. I think it would be more full, and that's the goal.
yeah.
But I could do it with three brands, and see what happens. And I have enough, I haven't even reached out to all my retailers. I've only reached out to the ones where like I have their cell phone numbers and I love them, and like they're like, "Oh, Becca, what's up?" Najee Jewelers is an Jeff and Liz and his team, love them. And like
Are
Smite's
they in New
Jeweler.
York or where are they at?
Yeah, they're actually in Connecticut. They're in Connecticut.
Connecticut.
And so this is another great thing is like the purview I'm seeing and like the jewelers that I really love, I like shouting them out because whatever, I want to drive business to them. Leonardo Jewelers in Renbank, New Jersey. I love Paul and that team. And it's like I have people who the reason why this is going to work, and like I'm really not trying to like toot my own horn here, but it's because I've worked with these people for 5 years and they know me and they know I took care of them at Shinola throughout all of the stuff, all of the good, all of the challenges. I showed up, and that's what makes a difference. Someone else could take this concept and they wouldn't be able to execute it because they don't have the relationships I do. Like that's the thing. That's what sets me apart from like anyone that like it's a great concept. And yeah, maybe people have more money than me or whatever, but this isn't about money. These guys like they care about money, but they care about relationships and if you're a good person. Like that's what I've learned. And Long's Jewelers, Debbie, again, I could like the list goes on and on. I haven't even reached out to all of those people yet. And I already reached out to like 10 or 15 of them. And like almost all of them at least said, I mean, when you're ready, bring us the brands and let's have like, I can get a meeting with any of these people. Whether or not some of them decide to do it, I'm not going to lie. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But every single one of them took my call and said, yeah, show us the
At least
product.
be willing to entertain the idea.
Yeah, and you can't even do that if you're a brand.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible,
Yeah.
and I really feel for them. So it's like I want to bridge that gap. I want them to like connect and come together because there's no other way for and some brands like a lot of it for the brands has been margin, right? Because they're selling direct to consumer. So they're not used to like a wholesale margin. And so they're like, oh, well, we want to keep our prices low and blah, blah, blah. And I understand that completely because part of their appeal is the price point. But, some of them I'm having talks with, and I'm like, dude, if you just raise it like $100, then you'll have a keystone, which is a half margin on it. And you'll make money and you'll be in front of new clients and you'll have a bigger reach. So, these
Called
have to be
brand
the
exposure.
yeah, brand exposure, but they don't know how many sales that like maybe they walk into like, Najee Jewelers, see a few pieces. And of course, we want Najee to get sales, but God forbid, everyone does this. They go online and they buy it on the brand website. Their brand could sell better DTC just from being in these other stores too. So It's like a big love fest of like sales. When I spoke to Hamilton a few conversations ago, I need to call them again, but they were like, "Yeah, this is interesting because this price point we have a really tough time with, and there's not anything new or interesting, and this is something that's new." So it's like it's a draw for their current clients who have everything under the sun, who want something different, and for people who've never heard of, like, say, maybe they just started school, in Princeton, and they're like, "Oh, I love brew watches." But what if they were like, "Oh, that brew is at Hamilton Jewelers now. I'm going to go look at it." And then they discover Hamilton, and that's their new gift place that they go to. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so much room for like business to be built for both parties. So, yeah, it's exciting.
So what are some of the most exciting wins that you've had so far?
I'd say some of the retail there are brand wins and retailer wins. With retailers, hearing them excited about the concept is really fantastic. Like hearing like and seeing a light in their eyes when I went through it and they were like, "Wow. Okay. Yeah, I get this." That's really gratifying because these retailers have been in the business for such a long time that not a lot excites them because everything is the same. Like it's a very
Yeah.
standard traditional industry. That was really cool because when I had this idea, I called my mentor, who's Anthony Austin. He was the former CHRO of Bedrock Manufacturing that owned Shinola. He's one of my closest friends. He's an incredible human and really good at his job and really good with people. And I put this idea in front of him and he's like, "First, you need to see if there's a need." He's like, "You need to call people, have conversations with them." So when I started calling some of these people who I hadn't spoken to in years, like, Jeff at Najee, and Hank answered my call. And Hank is like the best. He's literally the president and owner of Hamilton. And like he took my call. And not that I'm surprised by that because he's an incredible person, but like, I feel really blessed to know the people that I know, and the fact that they do take my calls and want to help is like Shannon, for example, too. Shannon being like, "Yeah, girl, like, what's up? Let's jump on a call." Because time is so valuable and time is so precious to all of us. So just the humility and being able to engage with people who care, that see that I care, that are excited about what I want to do is a big win. The other big wins I've had is someone in Switzerland never having met me, seeing it, getting it, and wanting to work with me. Like, that's wild to me. You know what I mean? Because these brands don't know me from apples to oranges. Another brand that I would love to call out, Sarbamba, it didn't work with us and like the configuration in this moment, but I had such a great experience taking them through everything, talking about it. Again, they really love me and what I'm doing. But, unfortunately, and I'm not saying this for them specifically, but I've talked to several people. There's been a lot of brands that have been burned by really bad consultants. That's
Mm,
also something that I'm combating, right? Because they did charge a retainer, they did charge this exorbitant amount and they got no results. So I'm up against
yeah.
that too. Even though I'm confident, even though I know, even though it's different, these guys have been burned before and it doesn't surprise me at all. And of course, I don't think it's purposeful. I don't think people have ill intentions, but people try things and they don't work and it doesn't work out. And next thing you know, you're down 30 grand. And for a small business, that can be make or break. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm also dealing with that, and I think that I knew that walking into this, that I would have to do some hand holding and education in this process and tell them why this is so different. And things are going to happen if they're supposed to happen. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe this will fail. I don't know, but it's like it would be so dumb of me not to try because I do think that the magical moments that I've had, the lights coming on, even with, again, brands where it's not going to work out, them being like, "We want to keep seeing what you do." Maybe it works out a year from now. Maybe they're in the full. So, like, I'm just really like touched by the people who have met with me, especially the brands, the people who don't even know me that are like, Team Becca now is like really great, even if they're not signed yet. So that's cool.
Well,
Yeah.
and that is the true testament to just who you are as a person, right? Like, I mean, you can't just get trust. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't
you have to
just
earn it.
come. Like, you
Mhm,
have to earn it, and it
mhm.
takes a lot of earning
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah,
especially in the world that we live in where it's a world of take, right? When we're all barraged by buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, but nobody's taken even a millisecond to even help somebody.
I know.
Like,
And
you know
that's
what
why, like that's why the retailers, it's like, I'm not worried about that. As soon as I get the brands and I have that sample product, Justin, and I'm like all over the world. Like, I know that's going to be fine. It's about getting these brands. And of course, they don't know me from Adam, some of them. So, how are they going to trust me like that? Like, that's what I have to start building. And that's why, again, I'm so flexible with my pricing right now and figuring it out for each brand, if, especially if they're a right fit, because once they see the results and they see what's happening, things will shift and change and there will be more brands. And like, also, by the way, my goal for these guys is to graduate from CHP Caliber. So, say we get like the 20 doors we want, the watches are turning, everything is great, and like they want to carry 20 to 30 SKUs and we've got a good footprint. And they're like, you know what, Becca, we're going to hire an account executive. Thank you so much for your time.
great?
Congratulations, I've done my job. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
that's what I wanna do, right?
yeah,
And so it's about growing them to the point where they don't
yeah.
need me
Well,
anymore.
because you don't want them to be tiny. That's the whole point,
No,
right?
it yeah, the whole point is to, like, give
Give
them
them
an
the door,
in.
get them in. Yeah.
Give him a little crack in the door where there's not usually one. And again, I've got to say, it's not because retailers don't want them. They just don't have the bandwidth or the time. They don't. They
Mm.
don't. There's too many brands. How are they going to know which one to take in? You know what I mean? Whereas if they've worked with me, they know that I vet, they know that I'm really good about inventory management. They know, we're going to have contracts talking about marketing together, and like, they'll know that the up and up is there because they're working with CHP Caliber. So there's a lot they don't have to actually worry about, which is great. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So outside of kind of the, you know, grassroots getting on phone calls,
Yeah.
sending one-to-one emails with, within your network,
Mhm.
um, what are you doing anything else outside of that are working for you right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, events are where it's at, man. I got an investor meeting and a few potential brands like pickups from going to, there was this thing called Madison Avenue Watch Week, where it was the coalition of Madison Avenue. Like, there's tons of, that's where all like there's big watch stores, Vacheron Constantin, Hublot, like all of those guys. And I did a walk there, and I got invited to an opening event by Dennison, which is another brand that I really love, that I'm chatting with. And there I met a potential investor just by talking about what I was doing very organically. I was on this Madison Avenue Watch Week like crawl. It was like a pub crawl except for watches. Talking to the guy next to me who is the rep for Jacques Bianchi watches that I love, who we're gonna get together and talk probably in Chicago in July. And like, he invited me to like this exclusive event where I actually talked to the owner of Wind Up for the first time. It was very, very nice. So it's all about going to events, man. Like, that's where it's at. That is where it's at. You've got to be seen. And it was the first time, that Madison Avenue Watch Week was the first time I had been to an event as Becca from CHP Caliber. Like,
Yeah.
I've been working on this idea since, I would say, it really came into my purview in February. Like, I had gone to, the Wind Up Watch Fair last year in October, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to reach out to these brands and see if they need an account executive. And then I was talking with, this is another great group, Solar Time. They actually they're based in the UK and in Hong Kong. And Dina is awesome. I should really check in with her. But they rep like, I think like 6 or 8 brands. And we've been talking, and we still have been talking for quite some time. And then I got the idea to do this. I was like, wait, hold on a second. Like, if we do this and we like have them placed here. So in February, I got the idea. I had been wanting to get back in the watch world since October. So it's only been like less than 6 months. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's like, this is all very, very new. And, and I like, I'm working, like, I have my consulting gigs. I work for a book publishing company now. I do LinkedIn work for a few companies. Like, I post on LinkedIn and stuff. And like, I work at a little boutique on the weekends in a store, right down the street from me. And I'm doing gig work to make this work, to have the flexibility. And I was someone who had six-figure corporate jobs for quite some time, and I don't anymore because I want to do this, and I can't have a full-time job right now if I want to do this. So
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that, like, even though I'm making like the least amount of money I've made as an adult right now, I'm the happiest I've ever been, Justin, because I'm doing what I want to do. And like, I know that it will pay off, but it's just funny how the world works like that. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just like, it is what
Well,
it is,
maybe you'll hit the sweet spot where you're doing what you love and you get paid for
Oh, I'm going to. Like,
it.
it's not a matter,
Yeah,
I
not
wouldn't.
maybe. When?
It is. It's when. It
Yeah.
truly is when, right? And like, there's this,
Yeah.
I am very woo woo in the universe and blah 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 blah. But what I'll keep it to on that is, we get out what we put out there. We get back what we put out into the universe. And I am also an artist, and I'm a musician, and I play music. So it's like, dude, I've been able to like play music. I released an EP recently. I'm doing really cool consulting work in an industry I've never worked in, book publishing, and it's been amazing. I've been working with this company since December. I'm working with a great kids yoga studio, my friends at Yo Ray Me, that are incredible. I do one-on-one coaching and consulting for a therapy practice. Like, I'm doing all this really cool shit, Justin. And yeah, I mean, I have a good rate. It's a decent rate. I had a 401k benefits, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not doing that right now. And there have been some major challenges, but then there have been some major benefits. I love working for myself. And I mean, listen, I have clients who are like my clients. I
Yeah.
love working for myself. I love waking up at 1 a.m. if I have to, and like sleeping in. And like, even with this little like shop gig I have, it's the coolest store. It's called Kasaziki. Anyone should stop by. Like, they have like art, photography. Everyone who works there is like, one is an artist, one of them's a videographer. I do music. Like, I literally just sit and chill and like sell people really cool shit all day. And my boss is like, oh, by the way, if you want to bring your laptop, you can work on your stuff too. It's totally cool. So it's like,
That's awesome.
great. Like, it's just, yeah, life is like working out. So it's pretty cool. So,
So what kind of looking ahead, like
mhm.
what are one marketing challenge or area you'd like to dial in over the next 6, 12 months as you continue to grow CHP Caliber?
That's a really good question. Like, marketing, I think, is going to be very important with this. I have been talking to Watch Pro about having an interview, which would be great, that we're going to hopefully release before Chicago Windup. So, I think it's about staying connected in a newsletter and a blog, only because, like, I know the reason I didn't get responses at first is because it's new. No one knows if this is going to like be a thing. But as you start to build momentum and get updates, and it's like, oh, people are being signed, like this is happening, people get interested. And, I think
Yeah.
I have to get to events and just talk about what I'm doing, because it was wild, dude. Justin, when I was like at that Madison Avenue Watch Week, and again, very organically, not like used car salesman, but people ask you, what do you do? What do you like doing? People's eyes lit up in the industry, and they're like, oh, I want to introduce you to blah, blah, blah. And it's great because like, these people recognize that this is something that someone needs to do. Someone needs to help these brands do this. So, I
Yeah.
think for me, the biggest thing is going to be boots on the ground, like guerrilla marketing, like going to these events, showing up, talking to people, reaching out to other connections on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's great. I really like LinkedIn. And doing things like this, which is why when you emailed me, I was super interested. I'm really grateful to like, be talking
Oh,
about it with you. So thank you. Thanks.
you bet. Well, I'm happy. I mean, that's the whole point of Rise Up podcast is I wanted to give people like yourself who have a great story to tell,
Yeah.
and you're in a different stage of your business journey than somebody else might be. We can
Totally.
all learn from one another, right?
I think the biggest thing that I could like wisdom to impart, if I have any, for being like, a wee person of 33, but that's like done a lot of stuff, is that nothing is black and white.
No.
Nothing. People think that they like, including myself, by the way. If this doesn't work, I have to get a full-time job. If this doesn't work, I have to And there have been moments already that I've thought that I've talked to my mentor and been like, do I just like give this up? And he's like, no. He's like, why? He's like, you're building momentum. He's like, change happens slow. Like, why do you need to get a full-time job now? I think that would totally go against everything you want to do. Now, listen, we live in a society where, shit's rough for everyone right now. But like, if I can maintain and sustain, and I've made changes in my life to be able to do that, I'm sacrificing right now, but I'm doing it in a really healthy way. I feel fine. Like, everything is good. But if you would have told me a year ago I'd be working like 5 different consulting jobs and work in like a little store in Greenpoint on the weekends, I'd be like, what? No, I'm not. Like, no, I wouldn't do that. Or I'd be like, I'd be miserable, but I'm not. And actually, I have to say, being out in the public after working from home for so long and like connecting with my community, I've been in this neighborhood for 15 years. It's awesome. And I've met such cool people and I've already met cool connections. So it's like, if you're also like building your own business, I encourage you to go work in a little store cafe around where you live, because you will be shocked at the amount of people that you meet that are interested in what you do. Like, it's pretty fantastic. So,
Wow. That's
yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, it's
So
to
I
be
have I have kind of I'm going to go a slight tangent on you.
okay.
I'm just curious. Top 5 favorite watch brands.
Ah, good one. Okay. I'm going to get
Don't
eaten up.
overthink it. Top, like, come
No,
on,
I
rapid quick.
know. Wait, because it's like okay. So top 5 favorite brands. I have to put can they be out of order? Because I can't
Yeah,
really. Okay.
whatever.
So this isn't like an order of what I like. I love Brew watches. Brew
Brew.
was the first indie brand that I really fell in love with, because of this style, the fact that the coloration is based off of old classic coffee machines, and it's
Yeah, it's
very
all about the
it's
coffee.
it's,
Yeah,
it's great, and their price is amazing. I fell in
yeah.
love with Brew.
Like what, 500-ish, somewhere around there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like 500-ish, like
yeah.
really, really reasonable. I think they just released an automatic that's super reasonable. They're great. Their marketing is like genius. Jonathan, the owner, is the nicest guy. Their whole team is like fantastic. Mayan watches. Beautiful. Listen, I think they photograph really well. They're obviously really great watches. Again, that same 500 to 700 price point. In person, their watches are just so special. They're like really beautiful, really nice, slim profile. One of the other ones I fell in love with at one of my first watch shows that has consistently put out work that I love. Another one of my favorite is Vordic watches. So RT, yeah, RT, really nice guy. We're going to meet up in August, but July I'll probably see him at the fair. He makes watches that are built from old pocket watches. He also owns Colorado Watch Company. Those are great watches too. But man, those pocket watches, they're like one of one. They're gorgeous. They're like between $2,000 and $3,000, but it makes total sense. Like, they're ones of ones. They have like, some of them are like enamel numbers, hand painted, like, oh, like just like so beautiful. That's like, I would say it'll be nice when my brand is like, or my company is like up and running and I have a bunch of expendable income. I'm buying one of his watches for sure. Like, that's on my grail list. So Vordic watches, that's 3. Okay, 4. Okay. I'm gonna get shit for this. I'm totally, because it's not like an indie brand. I
They don't have to
love
be indie brands. I'm just talking any brand.
I know, but like, I'm like trying to champion indie brands. Okay, so
Okay.
there's two. So the other one that I'll say, and I'm not just saying this because we're about to sign together, is Exequo. So Exequo has actually been around, I think they'll correct me if I'm wrong, I think since the 1970s. But their watches are again between like 700 and 2,000, and they're melting watch. Like they look like Salvador Dali, like very inspired. cool watches. Now, there is another brand that we all know and love, Cartier, and it's been compared to a Cartier crash. But Cartier crashes are either impossible to buy in the six figures, maybe even $1 million if it's like a really rare one. So it's an accessible price point, and they're really well built and they're beautiful, and someone like me could afford it. You know what I mean? Like that's what I really look for. I look for a cool brand. And I don't think it's like, people are like, oh, is it a knockoff of the Crash? It's like, no, they did this a long time ago. Like, if you look into the history of the brand, Jim Carrey wore a few of them at events, back in the day in the 90s. It's like they've been around for a while, actually. And because I love Salvador Dali and I have a Salvador Dali tattoo on my back, I remember when I emailed Chris, I was like, hi, I really, really, really want to work with you. I have a Salvador Dali tattoo. Please respond to me. And he added me on LinkedIn.
And he's like, this lady's crazy.
She's crazy. Well, I thought he was no, it's funny because he added me on LinkedIn after I sent him an email, and I was like, hi, did you add me because of my email? Because if so, I really want to talk to you. He's like, yeah, let's talk. And I'm a nutcase. I mean, obviously, but
In a good way.
that. And then I am in a good way. But then, if I'm going to have to like pick a stalwart, I do love Cartier watches. Like I love vintage Cartier, like do love the Cartier Crash. Yeah, I'm a sucker for a nice Cartier watch. But
All right, well, you gave kind of a good range. You got the kind of
they were
the
mostly
entry up to
Cartier.
high end.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Well, kind of wrapping things up here. We've been at it for like an hour, which is pretty awesome.
Wow.
I knew we'd be chatting for a while because we were.
I just talk a lot. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to cut.
Oh no, it's all good. What's kind of one thing you'd like to leave? I have two final questions for you. Okay. First one is, what do you hope, like somebody listening to you and your story and your journey through corporate America into now independent, mama jamma doing your thing, like, you know what I'm saying? If that's I don't know where that came from, but anyway, you know what I mean? What would you hope they walk away with hearing about where you're at and where you're going?
If you don't try, you'll never know. You'll never know if you could have done it, And there's an amount of privilege that comes with that statement too, to acknowledge, like, I've struggled. Like if we're going to talk about, I won't get too deep, but like, I moved here when I was 18. My parents didn't pay for my rent. I made my own way. That's why I got a job. So yeah, and listen, they were great and super supportive, but like I didn't come from like a wealthy family. That's what I'll say is like I don't come from money, right? And so I have done really well at jobs. I have been a part of mass layoffs, which I know people can relate to. And those layoffs and those challenges, and then I've like taken jobs that were a nightmare, that were toxic as hell. What I can tell you is that I believe everything happens for a reason. And those toxicities and those moments where you're laid off and you barely have any money and you're on unemployment, like there can be magic in those moments and in those days if you just hold on and know that you're going to be okay and that things will work out. And that is like a whole other woo-woo as hell conversation. That's like a different kind of podcast. But I believe that no matter what we go through, that in life, that we will end up where we're supposed to be. And I am so grateful for the things I've been through and what's happened in my professional career, all of the extremely good and all of the really bad, because everyone has it. Like, it's made me a better business owner. It's made me a more compassionate and empathetic human being. And it's also made me respectful and really cherish small businesses because I know what they go through, right? From firsthand experience. All of that lends itself to being a good business partner. And I think that that's really important to remember.
All right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that because I believe that too. So I'm wholeheartedly believe you. Like sometimes you hit in business or life, like it's the hard moments that shape you. It's the ones that push you to grow. If it was always good all the time, life would be boring.
Well, my grandmother said this a lot, and I love it. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. So if
Yeah.
you're
Amen.
uncomfortable, some growth is happening,
Yeah.
and like, especially with the way the world is and everything right now. I won't go into it, but it's like community is very important to me. Again, that's why I'm so passionate about supporting small businesses and also not chastising people for making mistakes because we all make mistakes in business.
We do.
Everything can be a learning opportunity. It's all about how we treat each other, which is why CHP is like the foundation of what I do, the creativity aspect and the humanity. Because if we forget that we're human beings and you get off a call and you're huffy and puffy, and I've been on the other end of phone calls of like vendors yelling at me because they're not getting things quickly enough or like whatever, or there was a big delay. And like, I've also had them call me back and apologize to me and me say, hey, I get it. Like, it's okay. Like, I don't know what happened to you today, but I've been there and thank you. And that strengthens the relationship. And so, there's a whole book I could eventually write on being a human in the workplace and in business. And I think that's why I've gotten as far as I have, is because I have always been human first. I have always been human and I've always looked out for people 100%.
Oh, well, that's awesome. And
Hmm.
I applaud you for that.
Thanks.
Applaud you for your courage and the grit, determination, the drive, the willingness to fail.
Yeah.
That's what the journey of entrepreneurship is. It's never a
And it
straight
could.
line.
You could talk a year from now and I'm in a cushy corporate job being like, well, that didn't work out. Okay. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I commend
So,
you for it, Becca.
thank you.
And I want to ask you one last question. It's kind of giving
Yeah.
you the floor. What
Okay.
would you like, anything particular you'd like to promote or highlight
Totally.
that you'd like to share with somebody listening to this?
Yeah. Listen. Okay. So there's a few things. So one, if you're a watch brand and you're like, this chick's really cool, I want to work with her, call me. I would love to
Okay.
talk to you.
And I'll put her link below this somewhere around there
Thank
so you
you.
can have it.
Thank you. Call me. And like, again, maybe you don't fit into the model that I'm thinking. Maybe it's just a consulting conversation. Maybe we work together once a month and talk about your bit. Like there's just a lot of stuff to do. Even if you're not into the idea, but you need a little guidance and support, I would love to be that for you 100%. So then it's to retailers. Retailers, if you're like, whoa, this is really cool, also get in touch with me. I am going to focus on the Northeast for now, for sure. Just again, I want to make sure this works for you. So, even if you're not in the initial launch of it or like, maybe it's not the right moment, I would love to stay connected to you. Potential investors. Hi, call me. I have a business plan. And I have numbers and I need your help and I would love your help because that will help a lot. What I would say is it'll help a lot with the travel and marketing aspect of this. And also too, I'm very realistic of it's hard for investors to invest when it like a part of it hasn't been proven yet. So I'm looking for all levels of that, whether it's
Okay.
like you want to fund a trip or you want to put X amount and get X back in a certain amount of time. I'm very open to that. So again, I'm an open book, would love to talk to you. And anyone else that's interested in watches and wants to just talk to me, or say if you're an aspiring entrepreneur and I resonated with you, like a part of my company, my other business that I started first, which is CHP Consulting, is about, company culture and people development. So, say if you need a career coach or you want to figure out how to do this, like something like this, like I offer career coaching sessions. I also offer one off sessions. I edit websites. I do so much stuff. So,
All right.
not to lay it on too thick, but like, really, I guess the bottom line is if you are really interested and you really like this conversation, like in some capacity, reach out to me. I'm very accessible and I would love
And
to talk to you.
it's chcaliber.com.
Yes. So
Okay.
that's my regular, like
The business that we're
that's
talking about.
the watch business. There is CHP Consulting NYC.com that has some of my company culture, like, people stuff on it. But yeah, mainly is CHP Caliber. And if you submit contact through there, it'll get to me. Do I actually have a general? Because I like on my website, I have a thing that shows, hold on, hold please, hold on. because I have
Cold.
do 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 do. Yeah, so yeah, at the bottom of my page is the email, which is info@chpcaliber.com, and that goes directly to me. So if someone wants to
Cool.
email and get in touch with me, that
Well,
totally.
somewhere around here in the video, if you're watching the video version of this, I'll put a link to you so it'd be easy, quick and easy. But if you're listening online, like via podcast or something like that, chpcaliber.com to reach the lovely Becca Florence. She is
Thank
the
you.
best.
Oh
So
my God, stop.
yeah, thank you so much for your chat today. I know we could talk for probably another hour easy.
I know. I'm so wait, Justin, what sign are you?
Cancer.
So sweet. And my dad's a Cancer. I'm a Taurus. I could
Uh,
just talk, but I'm a Leo rising, so it's the hair, it's the I could talk.
all I know is that I'm a Cancer. Other than that, I don't know a whole lot about it.
That's a maybe you come on my astrology podcast if I make one.
Okay, all right, sure. You can give me some pointers on that one, but I appreciate your time today. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to see what you do with CHP Caliber, and in all the endeavors you got going on. So if you are a retailer, reach out to her. If you are a watchmaker, reach out to her. If you are an investor and want to support her, reach out to her. Or if you have connections in those spaces, reach out to her. She would be a great person to talk with. So, Becca, have a great rest of your day.
Justin, thank you.